the rules of entering the data. Even if I have space in between, it's going to work. So the space has no this thing. So far I did not omit one of the commas like this. It's definitely going to work. So the most important thing is observing the rules and regulations. So you need not worry about the space in between it. Okay?
Yeah. I think I got something like that when I was running my own. That's why I said you
No,
want.
no, no. Once you have a comma,
That's fine.
ending the previous one, definitely everything should work fine.
Okay.
So now let's create the last table. So in our last table, we know that we have phone number and customer detail. This one, the phone number and the customer ID. So let's create that. So we want to create the last table. Select everything. Sorry. Create table, and then the name of the table, which is phone number, and we want to create it in this format: the customer ID first, customer ID, which is int, and then we want to create the phone number. So let's say phone number. Our phone number is going to be virtual. So to count the character, I think we have about 8. 3, 4, so we have 8 plus the value in between. 347 plus the value makes it 8. We don't want that to be a null value, and that's it. So remember that this customer ID is also what is gotten from the customer table. So we want to tell SQL that it should reference that. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing. Foreign key is my customer ID. Okay, and it references the customer table, and the name of the column that it's referencing is ID. So since I've inserted this value, I'm just going to get rid of it here. So now I have this customer table and then referencing from ID. So I'm just going to plug that in here like I did the other one. So that's that. It's done. I'm just going to enter that. No errors. Everything is working fine. So I want to insert the values. So I'm just going to do insert into the phone number. Okay, and I want to insert it using the customer ID, and then the phone number like that. and then the values. So I'm just going to go and grab the values here. So that being fixed, just gonna run the whole thing. Okay. Okay. 146 records. So let's see what we've done. If we go back again, I'm just gonna get rid of this. If I do seize the tables again, you can see now we now have 3 here. So let's read that. Select everything from phone number. So just run that. So now we have all the records here. 146 records. Okay, so all 3 tables have now been inserted.
Okay, so since you've inserted the data, you can actually get rid of it from this Excel, from this SQL here, right?
Yeah, sure. It has no relationship with it again.
You just deleted the whole data now.
Yes, I've created everything. Even if I delete this table schema, nothing changes in the database. I just wanted us to have a reference of what we created. So everything here now, even the create table and everything, if I remove it from here,
Okay.
nothing changes.
Okay.
So you want to ask me a question?
Let's. I'm fine now. Let's go.
Please, me, I'm not fine. I'm low.
What happened to you?
I'm lost.
You are lost.
Yeah.
Where? So that we can find you.
Can you please brush it from the start again?
What did you say?
Can you please just brush through it from the start?
Okay, so the first thing we did was to create a database, customer ID, and then we tell SQL we want to use the database customer ID, customer info, and then we tell SQL we want to use that database running this command or by selecting it from the top here. So we create the first table, customer. So looking at this table that we have here, we have customer, we have others, we have phone number. So the customer table has customer ID, first name, last name, gender, city, and country. So we want to create this table in such a way that it follows that same pattern. So the first one we want to create is the ID, which is the customer ID. We define the column ID. We put in the data type there as an integer. And then we tell SQL that we want to make it a primary key, which means we don't want to have a duplicate of that instance. And then we don't also want to have that value being empty, so we do this not null. So we do the same for first name, last name, and gender, city, and country. We put in the data type, and then we tell SQL we don't want it to be a null value. Moving forward, we also do the same for the other details. So in our other details table, we have order ID, customer ID, order date, product quantity, and unit price. So we want to create that kind of schema too, but we need to have at the back of our mind that this customer ID is referencing from this customer table. And in the customer table, we have ID, which means customer ID. So we also want SQL to understand that there's a relationship between this order detail and this customer table. So we create the first one, our order ID. We want to make it unique. We don't want two customers to share the same order ID. So that's an integer. Make it a primary key, and then it should not be left empty. And then our order ID too, make it an int. Our order date, we make it a date. Our product, a voucher, a quantity, our int. And then the unit price should be decimal, because it can be a whole number and then a fraction. Alright, so we need to tell SQL that we want to relate this customer ID to another table. So we tell SQL that this customer ID is a foreign key and it's referencing another table, customer, and the column from that table that it is referencing is ID. Then we do the same again for phone number. We create customer ID and phone number. Our customer ID is int, our phone number is voucher. And then we also want to tell SQL that this customer ID is referencing our customer table, and the column that it is referencing is ID. Do you understand now?
Yes.
And then we go ahead and insert values using the insert into keyword. Okay, show you where we go you are.
Oh, you are.
Good. So now we can now proceed to the next part. So now we've talked about data definition language part 1, which is create. So let's talk about alter and drop. Okay, so now the create is, we've created an instance, so now we want to alter it. Okay, so let's say for instance now at the moment, let's see at our table schema. Just gonna copy this and paste it right here. So if I run this now, I'll see my table schema. I have the table catalog, this first one. I have the table schema, this. I have the table name, I have the column names, I have the data types. So you can see that these are all the information that was defined in each of those tables. The first one is customer, so I have this in customer. My customer is ID int, first name voucher, last name voucher, gender voucher, city voucher, country voucher. So even if I don't have all these details right here, even if for any reason I don't have this file, once I once I run this on my database, it brings out all the information that is inside that database. And then for the other table, I have order detail, order ID, customer ID, order date, products, and then the data type associated with that. And for the last one, I have phone number, I have customer ID, phone number, and int and voucher. So if I was only interested in a particular table, I can do a custom read by saying something like maybe where the table name is equal to, and then I'll tell it the name of the table, customer, or maybe phone number. So it's only going to show me table information for phone number, like this. Okay, so we'll let's just keep it general for now. So what I want to do now that I can see all my information relating to that table, for any reason I've decided that I no longer want this unit price to be int, and I want it to be float, or that I no longer want this gender to be voucher, and I want it to be char. So let's alter this table. So I'm going to alter table, just going to, so the keyword is alter, and then whatever you want to alter. So I want to alter a table. So the name of the table I want to alter is this customer. So I could say customer, and then what do I want to do? How do I want to alter it? I want to alter this gender column. It's now voucher at the moment, but I want to make it char. Char is just for character, and then it's 254 characters long. So I want to say it should alter the name of the column, should alter gender. Okay, and how should you alter gender? It should change the value from voucher to char, and then it should be 10 character long. So let's say I've decided to take in other genders apart from male and female. Maybe there's another gender that now exists, and I want that in my table, but I discovered that this 6 character long is no longer going to do the trick, and I want to make it maybe 10 character long, and I no longer want to use voucher, I want to use char this time. So I could say alter table, the name of the table, and then not null, it should not be left empty. So I could say something like this to make this whole thing complete. So alter column, the name of alter table, the name of the table, alter column, the name of the column, and then the information that I want it to have. So now everything is set now, no errors. Let's just run this. So everything is working fine. So let's run this now. Let's just be sure that that changes. So you can see now that my gender is no longer char, it's no longer voucher, rather it's now char. Okay, so that's just to ensure that everything that we have done is working perfectly. So this first one that I've done now is that I've altered a column. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to add a column to it. So let's say I want to add a column. I'm gonna just say alter again, the table, the name of the table, the name of the table that I want to alter, and then so I want to add a new table now, a new column now. I can say add, and then the name of the column that I want to add, let's say occupation or something. Okay, now I want to add occupation, and the occupation is going to take in and the occupation is going to take in, let's say, voucher, and it's going to take in like 50, it's going to be 50 character long, and it's not going to be a null value. Now before I run this, I want you to know that I'm going to have an error, but I'm going to tell you why I'm having that error. So now let's run this. So this is the error I get. So let's interpret this error. Alter table only allows columns to be added that can contain nulls or have a default value, which means that if I remove this not null, it's going to work. That's the first thing it's telling me. Or have a default value, or if I put a default value here, if I put a default value, I assign it, it's going to work. But I've not done any of that. Or the column being added is an identity. So remember, I wanted to create an identity at the top, and I tell you that, and I said the other time that SQL creates that identity for me. I just have to specify the format I want it to be. Maybe I want to create a range of number from 101 to 1000. I just tell it to start from 101, and then it automatically populates it for me. But that is not the case here too. Or a timestamp, which means that SQL is going to be the one to populate that too. I don't need a manual entry. Or alternatively, if none of these previous conditions are satisfied, the table must be empty to allow additions to this column. Occupation cannot be added to non-empty tables customer because it doesn't satisfy any of this. So now I cannot add occupation because number one, I've said I don't want to have null values, and which is going to be null for all the records that I've actually added to that table. At the moment now I have about 150 records in customer table, which means that if I'm saying that those 150 records don't have occupation now, and I don't want to put null values there, so what is going to be there? SQL does not want to leave this place, leave those space blank, so it's not going to accept it at all. And I've not also defined a default value, so it's also not going to accept. So it's saying that if you want me to create this occupation table, you either have to let it be a null value like this. If I run this now, you can see now it's working. And if I run this now I have occupation voucher, and if I try to read that customer table, you can see now that for all the 150 records I have, they are all null values. So that's the only condition that SQL is going to accept my entry. The other thing I could do is to add in an identity. So how do I add in an identity? let's say for instance I don't want to use all these serial numbers that have been created at this side. I want to have my own. I can use that. So I'm just going to copy this and add a new column. Let's say serial number or something. I could say something like serial number, and then this serial number is going to be identity, and then I want the serial number to start from 1, and then it should step by 1, which means it should start from 1 and increase by 1. It's now be 1 2 3 4 5 6, or I can say I want it to start from 100, so that it will be 100, 101, 102, and the likes. So I can use this. Okay, and I should also tell it the name, the data type, which is int, and that's it. So if I run this now, since this is an identity and it does not need you to put the value manually, this is going to work because this number is going to be automatically generated. So if I run this now, works. If I run my table schema, I have serial number int, and if I run that select everything, now I have serial number. So this is what this is going to do for me. This is what it's doing now. It's creating this identity for me, starting from 1 and increasing by 1. Can you see? So the last one now is going to be 150. Can you see now? So that's why it was giving me that error that if it is not an identity, it's not a timestamp. So I can also create a timestamp for this if I want to. Okay, so now I've actually added in columns. So what if I wanted to rename a column? It's still part of you altering, but this time I'm using the exec word. So exec, and then I specify the command name, which is sp rename. I tell SQL the old name, which is from the customer table. I want to rename the country. So note that I'm putting the customer table here, dot the name of the column, which is this is country, and then I can now specify the name I want to rename it to, maybe country name or something, and then I tell SQL that it's on the column side that I want to perform this. Okay, just put in a comma there. So now everything is working. Let's just ensure. So if I read this now, you can see now that customer name has now, country name has now changed from country to country name. Okay, so we've added and then we've renamed. So let's remove. So if I want to remove, I could say drop, and then what do I want to drop? I could say alter table, the name of the table, which is customer, and then what do I want to drop? I want to drop column. Okay, so what's the name of the column that I want to drop? I want to drop occupation. Okay, I don't need to specify other things. So if I run this now, the column has been deleted. If I run this again, you can see now that the column occupation is now gone. So let's just change this back to country. So now it's country. So these are ways in which you could alter your table. Alright, so the last one, which is drop. So drop allows you to remove column. So it's just like, remove a table or a database or an instance. So if I want to delete a database now, I can say something like drop database and then the name of the database, like this. Okay, if I want to delete a table, I could say drop a table and then the name of table, like this. Okay, but I don't want to drop any of the instances I've created, so I'm just showing us how that works. So if I want to drop a stop procedure or a view, I just do drop and then the view and then the name of view, like that, including stop procedures and other things. Okay, so that's that about DDL. Any question?
Fine. Okay. Let me chip in this. The serial number that we added.
Okay.
What if you don't want it to be at the end of the table? You want it to be at the beginning of the table.
You want to rearrange your table. You would have actually done that. So if you wanted it to be in the beginning, then probably you might have added that to your table schema. Do something like serial number.
Okay.
And then
Here.
do int identity not null, like this, and then tell you want it to start from 1 and then it should continue to increase by 1, like this. But I altered the table to add this column to it. This column was initially not there, so it's adding to the last position.
So there's no function we can actually use when we are altering a table
to rearrange the table
the database
instance.
that I want it to be at the
no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Joshua, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any updates? Any problems so far?
I'm trying to process everything in my brain.
Okay, do process and let us know if there's issue so that we can run.
We'll just have to reset it.
All right, so that's great.